What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to review the Denafrips Ares II DAC. Now, I know what you're thinking, oh my god, everyone has reviewed this DAC, like what can you possibly say that is any different besides your own opinion? Well, you guys are not wrong. So we are not going to do this review the same way we generally do. I'm not really going to tell you what it sounds like. I'm not going to tell you about any specs or standout features. I'm not going to show you any pictures of it. I'm not going to do any comparisons. We will at some point wrap it up though. This is going to be quite different of an experience because again, I think most of you guys have seen all of the reviews already. I know I have, and I know I don't want to see another review that is the same. I want to make something that is different. So what I did, this was my idea. I pulled some quotes from almost everyone that at least I care about that's reviewed it, and we're going to chat about it. So first, I do want to answer one question. Some people might wonder, oh, by the way, sorry if I didn't already say this. And if I'm talking quickly, it's because the previous take of this video was 40 minutes. Holy crap. So I'm really trying to like shrink it down. Okay. So some of you might be wondering, why do I have the Denafrips Ares II? Why not a Bifrost? Why not an RME? I don't know. You guys know which one I'm talking about. RME ADI. That's what it's called. Or a topping D90 or SMSL M400 and so on. And if I didn't already say this, this is my DAC. I bought this for myself. This is not a review sample. I bought it from Vinshine Audio. I paid full price. It is mine. And I'm super happy because it's really good. And the reason I picked the Denafrips Ares II, well, first let me tell you why I didn't pick those other ones. So the RME ADI, I didn't pick that because it had way too many options and I'm pretty much a purist. My system is very purist. I don't have a ton of like setup options with my system. I'm a big believer in less is more. I didn't want options to fiddle around with forever. I wanted a purist piece, plug and play, let's go. And that's what the Denafrips Ares II is. There's no remote, there's no preamp section, there's no nothing. So you just plug it in. You know what I mean? The only options I think you have are to switch between oversampling, non-oversampling, and then two filter options. And I'll be honest, guys, I didn't even hear a difference when I was messing with those. It seemed like some reviewers really had a strong opinion that one setup or the other was like a lot better. I think those guys were using headphones because with my system that is fairly resolving, at least like in a room with speakers, I could not really hear a difference between any of the different modes. Anyhow. So that's why I didn't pick the RME ADI. It's just too many options. I just didn't want all that. The Bifrost. I didn't pick the Bifrost because based on all the reviews I saw, the Bifrost would have just given me more of what I already have. My system leans towards cool, lean, and analytical already. And the Bifrost is not known for tonal richness per se, right? It's a great DAC. A lot of people like it. I just didn't want what it had to offer. Let's talk about the topping D90. Why didn't I pick that? Or the SMSL M400? I didn't pick those, again, for the same reason. Those are known to be like very analytical, give you like tons of detail and things like that. I already have all that. That's not what I wanted. But when I watched reviews of the Denafrips Ares II, people were describing something different. They were having an emotional response to this digital to audio converter. If you haven't watched the other reviews, check them out. Check out Randy's Cheap Audio Man. You can see this emotional reaction to it. It's an awesome review. And I got some quotes from him. We're going to talk about it in a second. But that's why I picked the Ares II. I was like, there's something people are loving about this. I need to get it so I can understand it. And I had a feeling what they were loving about it was what my system was missing. And it was. It improved my mid-range. It improved everything from top to bottom. I don't really want to get into the sound signature upgrade of it all because so many people have talked about that. But let's jump into the quotes. I'm going to read these quotes to you. I'll give you my thoughts on them if I have thoughts. If not, we'll just jump to the next one so that this video doesn't run into 40 minutes. So let's start with Darko. Darko said, this is the most audibly agreeable DAC that I have heard so far at the sort of $700 and below. I agree, Darko. This is very audibly agreeable. It just sounds great. And I think it's a sound a lot of people are going to like. Another thing Darko said, and this is a very short quote, and I'll give you the context in a second. Absolutely fantastic. And when he said that, there's not much context to it. He said it at the end of a sentence when he was describing something else about the DAC, but it was very authentic. Like you could tell it wasn't planned. It wasn't scripted. His brain didn't come up with the sentence and he didn't think to himself, I'm going to end this sentence with absolutely fantastic, because he didn't. He ended his sentence and then before moving on went absolutely fantastic. You can tell it's just his real candid response. And that's the kind of response that I kept seeing in other reviewers' videos about the Ares II that got me curious about it. Darko said all kinds of things about the DAC, but that candid response that came out of nowhere where he just went, absolutely fantastic, that got my attention. You know what I mean? Let's move on. British audiophile. He said the Denafrips Ares II has an extremely natural presentation. I agree. I agree. It does have a very natural presentation, and I like it a lot. Now, when he was talking about the Ares II versus the Chord Mojo, British audiophile said, it's not a matter of personal taste. The Ares II is just better. I haven't heard the Chord Mojo, but the Denafrips Ares II is roughly double the price, so no surprise there. Again, British audiophile said, Ares II has the kind of presentation that will work well in a wide variety of systems. I agree. I believe that to be the case. Based on what I heard, what it brought out in my system, I can't see there being like any compatibility issues really. Now, if the top end was like crazy sharp and it did like a lot up top, then we could say, oh, you know, if your system's already like quite aggressive up top, you probably don't want that. Or if it did like a lot in the bass region, like, but that's like, oh, sorry. I keep bumping my rack. I'm like sitting super close to it. The Ares II doesn't make any one particular massive change, like to just the treble or just the mid-range or just the bass. Like, it's overall the way the music is presented to you that is simply much improved, more organic, more lifelike, more natural, more engaging. It's hard to almost put your finger on it. And all right, before I go on more rants, let's get back to the quotes. So, what else did Tarun say? It's a no-frills DAC that offers true high-end performance at a reasonable price. I agree, Tarun. I think the price is reasonable. It's about $750 or so. And I was not expecting this much of an upgrade from the Ares II. It's only $750. My system sits between $13,000 and $16,000, depending on how I have it configured. And I emailed Alvin over at Vinshine Audio, who is the global distributor for Denafrips, and he knows about my system because it's Kinky Studio, Preamp, and Monoblocks, and he's also their global distributor. And he was like, you know, for your system's like pretty, you know, kind of like up there in dollars. I would recommend Pontus at minimum. And I was like, yeah, I'm not really trying to spend all that. So I figured I'll just get the Ares, and I was like, oh, it'll probably just be like this minor nuanced upgrade. And I'm okay with that for $750 because I don't want to spend $1,800, $2,000 for a Pontus. But the upgrade I got was anything but nuanced. It was, again, quite engaging from top to bottom and quite challenging to describe. And the reason it's kind of challenging to describe is because the response I have to the Ares II, and it seems the response a lot of other reviewers have to the Ares II, is an emotional one. It engages with you more, or in a different way that makes it hard to describe, because emotional responses are difficult to quantify and exceedingly difficult to describe. And I'll give you an example here. If I put a puppy in your face, you would become very giddy, very excited, very happy. You'd be like, oh my God, it's a puppy. But if I ask you, hey, break it down for me, my man, like what about the puppy is it that makes you excited or happy? What gives you this emotional response? You'd probably say something like, well, you know, the puppy's cute. You know, it's like got this like pretty face, and it's just like super energetic, and like, you know, like dog's a man's best friend. And you'd pretty much run out of stuff to say there, because it's difficult to describe an emotional response to something. You know, we all love puppies. We've never had to describe why we like puppies. But if an alien race came down that just, they didn't have pets, and they asked us to describe to them our emotional response to when we see a puppy, we'd have a hard time. And the Ares II is kind of like that. Let me get back to the quotes here again so this video doesn't get too darn long. Okay, British audiophile, he said, what else did he say? Okay, we already covered him. So we're gonna talk about Thompson Stereo now. Thompson Stereo said, if you don't have tubes in your system, it's going to be a big shock to you. And let me give you some context. He was talking about how tubes make your sound system more holographic. And the Ares also does that. And if you've never experienced that, and you know, people like me, for example, who don't have tubes, You will be shocked by the difference. Thomas is absolutely right. I thought I knew what he meant when he said holographic. Because my soundstage is big, it's expansive, it has depth, it has width, it has good imaging within the soundstage, and I thought that was holographic. But now that I have the Ares II, I understand that alone is not holographic, because the Ares II adds a sense of lifelike realism to the presentation. It makes it more analog sounding and more engaging, and that is what makes it holographic. Now when I listen to it, the word holographic sounds correct for what I hear. Whereas before, like I said, I thought holographic just meant like this big, wide, deep soundstage with good imaging. But it's not. Those are technical things. And that's a technically good system. And that's what I had before. I had a very technically good system. Now I have a very emotionally engaging and technically good system. And it's awesome. Anyhow, another thing Thomas said is, I think the mid-range will catch your attention. Thomas was absolutely correct. The mid-range, big fan of it. I'm really fighting myself here because I want to get into the sound signature and stuff, but it's like, it's been covered to high hell. It really has. I don't want to do it. More quotes. Cheap Audio Man. Oh no, Jay. We have Jay first. Jay from, I don't know what he goes by. I think it's Jay Iyagi is what his YouTube channel is now. Before it was Next Best Thing. Before that it was Soul Stick. Jay, stop changing your name, man. You're confusing the people. You're confusing me. I don't know what to call you, man. All right. Jay said, when showing the internals of the DAC, he was holding it up like this. He said, "This is glorious." And now he's not describing like anything that's too meaningful, but I wrote that down for a reason because it's like Darko's quote. Let me scroll back up and read Darko's quote, where Darko said, "Absolutely fantastic." How it was just like this addition to the end of the sentence that was very candid and very real. That's kind of like how Jay's response was. I don't think Jay planned to hold the DAC up and, say, "This is glorious." I don't think he planned that. I don't think he scripted that. I think that was just his natural, I hate to use the word like speaking from the heart response, but that's what it looked like. Watch his video. You'll see what I'm saying. He just holds it up and he's like, "This is glorious." And I feel that. I get what he's saying. And look, I'm not going to show you a bunch of pictures of this thing. You guys have already seen it a million times. And I don't even have it on display. I just have it on the screen. It's down there. It's in my system. I'm not going to pull it out and show you this little box. We all know what it looks like. But if anyone doesn't believe me that I actually own it, just click off this video, unsubscribe. I don't know what to tell you. If you don't believe me, you probably shouldn't watch my content anyway. All right, back to Jay. Jay said, "The fact that this is under $1,000 is mind-blowing." I agree. I agree so much that I'll tell you this. So if I spent the $1,800 or $2,000 that the Pontus cost, and I took Alvin's advice, because he told me originally to buy the Pontus, and I ordered the Pontus, and when it arrived, the sound signature and upgrade I got is what I got from the Ares, and that's all I got, I'd be like, wow, this is amazing. I'd be super happy with it, which makes me really curious, what does the Pontus do? If the Ares II is this good, what does the Pontus do? It's like, pfft. Okay, what else did Jay say? Jay said, "High frequency is open and airy like no tomorrow with a pitch dark background." I agree, Jay, correct. Another thing Jay said, "The mid-range is so natural." I agree. The whole presentation, honestly, is very natural. All right, Cheap Audio Man, Randy, if you haven't watched his review, you should totally watch it. There's so much soul in it, like an Ares II. He said, and this is high praise. This is high praise. But we're going to talk about this. He said, Randy said, "The Denafrips Ares II is the single most important piece of equipment that I've ever heard in 39 years of enjoying music." That's quite the statement. Now, I'm not even 39 years old, so I can't I can't tell you if it's the best thing I've heard in 39 years. But when I first watched his video and I saw him say that, my Ares II had just landed. And I think I had been listening to it for maybe an hour or two. And I was like, oh, maybe Randy's system's a lot cheaper than mine. And maybe it was a big upgrade for him. I don't think it's that big of an upgrade for me. But I had only listened to mine for about an hour. But after 3 or 4 days, 5 days, oh man, I totally understand what Randy is saying now. I totally do. It's the way it has me react now to my system. I'm even talking stupid because it's hard to describe. I'm just more emotionally involved and engaged in the music. That's all I could really say. And I believe Randy had that same experience that just kind of like took him and he was just like, damn, I love this. That's how I feel about it. So yeah, he's not exaggerating. I don't think he's exaggerating, at least. Another thing Randy said, Cheap Audio Man said, in a word, the Denafrips Ares II sounds realistic. It sounds perfect. Randy, that's more than a word. I'm just kidding. The thing about this, the reason I got this quote is because, again, it was like Jay's and Darko's, where the part where Randy says, it sounds perfect, the sentence already ended. He was about to move to another thought, but that just kind of came out. It was, again, that same like candid, authentic, like very real, just natural response. And that's not to say like everything these guys say isn't natural and like true and from the heart. This is what I mean. Like, so like when I'm talking, my brain is planning what I'm gonna say, right? And that's when I say it. And I think that's, I don't know, I think that's how most people are. But when Jay said, what did he say? This is glorious or something. I don't think his brain told him to say that. I think it just came out. When Randy said this is perfect, I don't think his brain told him to say that. I think it just came out. When Darko said, what did Darko say? Absolutely fantastic. I don't think his brain told him this is what we're going to say next. I think it just came out. These were just the real reactions. All right, what else we have here? Whew, I got a lot of content from Randy. He said a lot of good things about this. He said, it feels like an acoustic guitar is in the room. My system already had really, really killer like sound to it and tonal character for acoustic music. So I didn't notice this like huge upgrade in that region, but I did notice that kind of experience with other genres. What else did he say? Randy also said, I don't know why the Denafrips sounds so good. It probably has something to do with the ginormous power supply inside. I just thought that was funny, so I quoted him for it. I got nothing else to say about that. Another thing Randy said, I'm not going to do a great job of describing how this thing sounds. I can't describe it other than it sounds realistic. Randy, I feel you. I totally get what you're saying, because I'm not going to do a great job describing what it sounds like either, and that's why I'm not even trying. Again, like I told you guys about the puppy, it's really difficult to describe an emotional response to something, and that's what I'm having with the Ares II. What else do we have here? Randy, again, Cheap Audio Man said, once I put the Denafrips in the chain, everything got better. Strongly agree. Randy also said, this is the last DAC I ever own. Randy, I want to believe you. I really do, but we all know how this game works. I want the Ares II to be the last DAC I ever own, but I'm already curious about the Pontus. All right, let's jump over to another reviewer, Midfi Guy. This dude is super cool. He actually did like this huge DAC roundup where he had the Ares II, he had the Bifrost, I think he had the Topping D90, and he had the Chord Mojo. I think he had a more expensive Chord DAC also. So I was like really like interested in this guy's review. Midfi Guy opens this video with saying, the DAC that I'm definitely 100% keeping, the Denafrips Ares II. From the rip, he's like, this is the one I'm keeping. I actually emailed him about that video and I was like, hey, it's like been a while since you posted that video. Like, do you have any thoughts to share? And all he said was, you know, something, and I'm paraphrasing because this email took place a while ago. He said something to the effect of, you know, in the video, you know, I talked about how the Ares II and the Bifrost were like very different, but kind of like similar, and how that he was going to go back and forth. I think his plan was something like, you know, the Ares was like super like organic sounding, but he felt like he missed some detail that the Bifrost had. But after listening to the Ares more and more, it kind of sounded like that was just his go-to, and he liked it more and more the more he listened to it. Anyhow, what else did Midfi Guy say? He said, I am continually wowed by how rich and enveloping the sound is. I agree. He also said, 2 reasons I'm keeping this DAC. Its amazing sound signature and insane value. Again, I agree. If this costs double, and I paid double for this because that's just what it costs, and I got the upgrade I got, I'd be super happy with it, and I would believe that to be a fair value. The fact that it is under $1,000, super awesome. My guess, they're hardly making any money off of this thing. So if you want your dollar to go very far, Denafrips Ares II. Your dollar's going really far, guys. What else did he say? Smooth and engaging and harmonically rich sound signature and wide, lifelike soundstage. This is another thing Midfi Guy said when he was describing the sound. Good job describing the sound. He did better than I did. I'm not even describing the sound. I'm just reading other people's quotes. And then the last thing that I quoted from Midfi Guy, for this level of sound, you'd expect to pay over $1,000. I agree, Midfi Guy. I agree. Steve Gutenberg, he said, Ares breathes life into the music. That's what it does. I dig it, Steve. I dig it. I agree. Another thing he said is, I am super blown away by the Denafrips. I wrote this down because, again, I don't think that's something his brain told him to say. I think that just came out. I don't think Steve's brain went, say, I'm super blown away by this product. Like, no, it was just like this natural response. And that's what I kept seeing in these reviews when I watched these Denafrips Ares II videos. Guys, I watched almost all of them. The only ones I didn't watch were the ones where I'm like, I don't like this YouTuber. Yeah, there's certain YouTubers I just don't like, okay? It's nothing personal. I just have my taste. Some people, they just like don't get my attention for whatever reason. Anyhow, what else do we have here? Passion for Sound is the last reviewer I got some quotes from. This dude's out of Australia, and his review was also super helpful for me. This quote's a little bit long, but he really nails it. He said, this is Passion for Sound. As you listen to it more and more, it does everything with a beautiful sense of realism and naturalness that never draws your attention away from anything other than listening to the music. Well said, Passion for Sound. Well said. Another thing he said is, it's producing a very natural, three-dimensional, and lifelike sound that's very, very enjoyable. Okay. That's all of them, guys. That's all the quotes. I'll leave you with my final thoughts if you need a TLDR. The Denafrips Ares II, you can believe everything everyone says about it. All the raving reviews, all the positive praise. It's not hype. It's not. I didn't think it was hype when I ordered it, but I thought it was more nuanced because it's not uncommon for reviewers when we're reviewing something and we're talking about differences or improvements. Oftentimes they are quite nuanced. Our job is to kind of magnify these minor differences. And sometimes I think you, the audience, may not realize that when we're talking about sometimes these differences between products, difference is actually quite narrow sometimes. So when I saw all these like raving reviews for the Ares II, me being a reviewer myself, knowing that a lot of times these differences we talk about are minor, I was like, oh yeah, it's probably like just like some nuanced changes. Yep, it was anything but nuanced. These were substantial, significant changes that are oddly difficult to describe. It just made my system more enjoyable. Yeah, I'm happy I own it. I don't know what else to say besides that. If you've got any questions, let's chat about it in the comments below. We're going to wrap it up here, guys. Until next time, later.